I wanted to share my story of how my wife's one-time infidelity ruined our marriage and destroyed our family unit. This all happened a few years ago when my ex-wife and I were 45 years old. We grew up together and became sweethearts in the 8th grade. We have been inseparable ever since the 8th grade, basically. We were each other's one and only love, up until my wife had a one-afternoon affair 5 years ago. At that point, my wife and I had been married for 25 years and were very happy. Ever since we fell in love in the 8th grade, we've always been an unbreakable team. My wife was a stay-at-home mom and loved being the caretaker of our family. She was so proud of me and our 2 children, daughter now 23 and son now 21. She loved cooking, cleaning, gardening, sewing, and just creating a wonderful home life for the 4 of us. We regularly made love, and our passion for each other seemed to be evergreen. Our ideal existence was shattered during the July 4th holiday weekend of 2017 when my wife disclosed to me she had sex with another man earlier that year. I'll now set up the situation and explain. At Christmas of 2016, I gifted my wife with a new state-of-the-art kitchen, with all new appliances, new lighting, new cabinets, and new floors. This is something she always wanted, and I saved up for 3 years to buy it for her. I hired a well-known designer contractor, and his team began work in January. Throughout the construction, my wife was so excited, and each day she would update me on the progress and on any modifications she made. She was so happy and thanked me daily for getting this for her. When the kitchen was finished and the crew had moved on, my wife's demeanor suddenly changed. She was still the great mom, homemaker, and lover I always knew, but she became very clingy to me and overly loving and adoring. She has always told me how much she loved me and treated me like a king, but this was way beyond the norm. Every night in bed, she wanted me to hold her tight prior to us going to sleep. She was having trouble sleeping, seemed distant, and was losing weight. I could sense something changed. She and I discussed her changes and weight loss a few times, but she just chalked it up to her loving me and our family so much. Fast forward to the weekend of July 4th. Her sister and husband were taking our 2 kids with them and their kids to the beach and would be back on Tuesday. It was Thursday night, and we had just finished dinner and had cleaned up, and she and I were sitting in the living room. My wife approached me crying, and I said, "What's wrong?" She came over to me and melded into my arms and began to sob. She said, "I have something to tell you, and I hope you will still love me." I said, "I'll always love you. What's going on?" She then said she had been unfaithful to me. She said that she and Joel, the crew leader of the construction team, had sex on our sofa where we were now both sitting, after he completed the final walkthrough of the kitchen with her. I couldn't believe what I heard and felt extreme anger and hate. I said, "You did what? Tell me that you're kidding." With this, she began to sob uncontrollably, and I knew my worst nightmare had come true. I stood up and pushed her away, and she sunk into the couch crying and pleaded with me not to hate her. As I stood up, I was looking straight into the kitchen, and it made me sick. I had to get out of there and fast before I lost it. So I went to the bedroom, locked the door, and began packing the suitcase. My wife was outside the door sobbing and begging me to let her in. After about 15 minutes, I opened the door and walked out with my suitcase. She cried and pleaded for me not to leave, but I said I've got to get away from you and this house before I lose my mind. She asked where I was going, and I told her I would be in touch. I left and drove an hour away and got a hotel where I stayed for the next 2 nights. During this time, my wife called and texted me constantly, but I only replied once to her letting her know I was all right and that I would be in touch. It was Saturday evening, and I called my wife to tell her I was coming home so we could talk. When I arrived, she looked terrible, like she had been crying ever since I left, and was as pale as a ghost, and was totally emaciated. She was shaking and went to hug me, but I kept her at bay and said let's go into the bedroom and talk. I didn't want to see the kitchen or the living room where the infidelity took place. I had her tell me what happened, and she explained that after their final walkthrough, Joel kissed her and they had sex on our couch. She said it was consensual, but she immediately regretted what she had done. She said the guilt and shame was eating away at her, and she had to tell someone. So she told her sister this past Tuesday, and her sister said she had to tell me or she, the sister, would do so when she returned from the 4th of July holiday. She said she would do anything to keep me, as if she lost me, her life would no longer be worth living. She said she would even let me have an open relationship and see other women if it meant that was the only way I would stay with her. I told her I took a vow and would never cheat on her while we were married. With that, she burst again into tears. I then told her to look at me and listen closely to what I was about to say. I told her that I forgive her for the transgression. I explained I did so not for her, but for my own peace of mind, as I could not live with this eating me away. I then told her that I no longer trust or love her. In fact, right now I have hate for her for what she's done. I went on to explain I don't have any romantic feelings for her. In fact, she is repulsive to me, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to touch her again. Hearing this, she again burst into tears and began pleading with me, saying, "Please, I'll never do anything to hurt you again. Don't leave me. My life will be over if you do." I told her I wanted to see if we could work things out, but I was doubtful we could do so. I said that I can no longer stay in this house, as seeing that kitchen and the living room would be a constant reminder of her infidelity. She said she wanted to get out of the house as well, as it was the same for her. I then told her we need to separate for a while. She begged me not to do so, but I told her it was necessary for us to heal and to see if we could rebuild our relationship. I told her that I would stay with my parents, and she could stay with her parents or her sister's home, and our kids could decide with whom they wanted to live. She again began sobbing uncontrollably. I then explained that the next step in our healing process is that we had to tell our parents and then our kids when they got back on Tuesday. She again began sobbing and begged me not to make her do this, but I told her she had to. We then retired to separate bedrooms. In the morning, we called our parents and made arrangements to meet them at their individual homes during the afternoon. We met with both sets of parents, and it was very emotional. I opened the conversation, then let my wife confess. She cried uncontrollably each time. The gravity of what she had done really hit her heart, and she was really in an extremely frail condition. I explained to her parents that she would be living with them for the time being, and explained to my parents I would be living with them, and our kids can decide what parent they want to stay with. My daughter is going off to college next month, and my son is going to be a senior in high school. So while it will be hard on them, it would have been much harder if they were much younger. Our parents were very shocked, disappointed, and saddened. Her mother was extremely angry and screamed out, "How could you do such a thing to your husband?" Both fathers just shook their heads in disgust, and my mother was very emotional. I explained to all of them that I no longer trust my wife or love her and absolutely have no romantic feelings for her. I went on to explain our plan was to see if we could rebuild our marriage in the coming months, and if not, that I would file for divorce. Hearing this made my wife burst into hysterical crying. That night, each of us stayed at our respective parents' homes. On Monday morning, we called her sister and explained the situation and arranged for a time for her to drop off our kids when they got back on Tuesday. I took the day off and met my wife at our home for their arrival at 3 p.m. She was visibly shaken, gaunt and pale with black circles under both eyes. She looked completely different than she had just 1 week ago, and like another person from the beautiful, supple woman she was just 6 months ago. Our kids arrived and my sister-in-law hugged me before she left, saying how much she, her husband, and family loved me, and that they would always be there for me no matter what happened. She left, and we told the kids what occurred. I opened up the conversation and again turned it over to my wife to explain the affair. It was very emotional. My kids were in shock and totally disgusted with their mother, especially my daughter, who wouldn't even look at my wife. I explained to the kids that we would be selling the house due to the bad memories, and that we would be living separately with our parents for the time being as we work through things. Both kids immediately said, "Dad, I want to live with you." Throughout the entire conversation, my wife was crying and totally distraught. Fast forward 4 months, and I made the decision to divorce my wife. While I did forgive her and know she was truly remorseful, I could not regain the trust, love, and deep passion I once had for her. I found it very difficult for me even to be in her presence, had absolutely no desire for her, and could no longer stand the sight of her or the sound of her voice. My wife was devastated and my kids were upset, but understood and wanted me to be happy. Our kids have reconciled with their mom, but their relationship with her is totally different now. They just don't see her the same way. They don't trust her and rarely visit with her outside of Thanksgiving or Christmas. Our divorce was relatively painless as my wife wanted nothing and petitioned the court to not award her anything. But I insisted she take half of our assets as she was an excellent partner to me up until the time of her transgression. I know people will think I'm crazy for doing so, but I feel good about making that decision. My wife claims she will be giving most of the money away to my kids when they are older. 5 years later, I bought a new house and just started dating again. My wife moved into an apartment, got a job in a local retail store, and is still trying to get me back. She says that she will never love another man again and feels one day we'll be together again. She remains in a very frail state physically and continues to suffer extreme emotional problems from our breakup. I have a friendly relationship with her, but I have made it clear that I will never have romantic feelings for her again. My daughter graduated college and has a good job lined up, and my son is going into his senior year of college. They are both wonderful kids, and I could not be more proud of them. They've made peace with their mother, but as I said previously, they don't look at her the same way and have little contact with her. Our parents are great and very supportive, and I still have a close relationship with my wife's parents. I wanted to tell my story to help other men who may be facing the same. For me, reconciling after infidelity was not possible. Though it was a single event and my wife was truly remorseful, and I have a high degree of confidence she would never hurt me again, my trust was gone and I couldn't get the affair out of my mind. I didn't want to live the rest of my life this way. My advice to anyone who's been cheated on would be to forgive the cheating partner, but immediately end the relationship. Don't drag it out. Forgiving them allows you to regain control of your mind, and ending the relationship enables you to regain your manhood, your self-respect, and move on with your life. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'll see you again. Take care.